It's on this side of the street. It's him. Fuck. It's him. He came out of the house. It's him. Watch out. Put your hands up. Put your hands up now. Put your hands up. Put him up. Put him up. You're gonna get shot! Put your hands up!
It was an ordinary Saturday morning, the kind of quiet that hides danger too well. Aisha Fraser pulled into a familiar driveway for a routine custody exchange, her two daughters in the back seat. Before she could unbuckle them, her estranged husband, former Judge Lance T. Mason, appeared from behind the house and attacked. In seconds, the scene turned from routine to horror. The children screamed. His sister dialed 911. By the time police arrived, Aisha was gone. Mason fled in her car, rammed a police cruiser, and fought officers before they subdued him. The knife, still wet with blood, was found nearby. This wasn't random. It was a final act in a long pattern of violence that the system documented and then minimized. There had been a brutal assault years earlier, a conviction, a protection order, a city job handed back to a man who had nearly beaten his wife to death. Aisha Fraser did everything the law told her to do, and still it wasn't enough. You're watching Dark Trace Crime Cases, where we examine not only what happened, but how it was allowed to happen. If you believe accountability should outweigh privilege, tap like so this story reaches more people who need to see it.
She said she was a mother and a school teacher. Aisha Fraser's life tragically came to an end in a backyard where she was attacked and stabbed to death early Saturday with her kids nearby. An emotional 911 call reveals some of the horrific details, and we've decided to only air certain portions of that call that we believe are important for you to hear firsthand.
I need the police immediately. My brother is attacking his ex-wife.
This was the information police had as they responded to this home on Chagrin Boulevard Saturday morning. The caller is the sister of former Cuyahoga County Judge and State Senator Lance Mason. She was inside with Mason's two young daughters talking to police when she reported what was going on in the backyard.
He stabbed her and he said she's dead.
Aisha Fraser wasn't just another name in a police report. She was a teacher, a mother, and a source of light in every community she touched. Born and raised in Cleveland, she graduated from Hathaway Brown School, went on to earn degrees from John Carroll University and Baldwin Wallace University, and poured her energy into the classroom at Woodbury Elementary in Shaker Heights. She taught 6th grade history and math, but what she gave her students went far beyond lessons. She made sure every child knew they mattered. Her classroom walls were covered with affirmations. Her colleagues said she carried empathy like armor, using it to protect her students, even on the days when she was hurting herself. Her greatest pride was her daughters. She centered her life around their stability, keeping their routine steady, giving them hope, showing them resilience. Even after the 2014 assault that left her with broken bones and lasting scars, she returned to teaching and motherhood with quiet courage. That earlier attack had nearly killed her. Lance Mason, her husband at the time, assaulted her in front of their children. He hit her more than 20 times, slammed her head into a dashboard, and bit her face. Her skull and orbital bone were fractured. She needed reconstructive surgery. When police searched his home, they found rifles, grenades, and ammunition, an arsenal that hinted at the danger still ahead. Mason was charged with felonious assault, kidnapping, and domestic violence. In 2015, he pleaded guilty to reduced charges and received a 2-year sentence. He served 9 months. 9 months for a near-fatal beating witnessed by 2 children. Aisha obtained a protection order and followed every instruction that professionals gave her. She structured custody exchanges under supervision. She used daylight, controlled locations, and legal documentation. Each decision was calculated to keep her daughters safe. Even through trauma, she made sure her children could maintain a relationship with their father, under court-approved terms. It was the kind of grace that only someone deeply committed to her children's well-being could show. Behind the scenes, Aisha was realistic about her safety. She had confided in her close friend and godmother figure, Stacy Crowell, about her fears. She had a plan, one no mother should ever have to make. If something happened to her, she wanted Stacy and her husband to raise the girls. She hoped that plan would never be needed. But the existence of that plan showed just how aware she was of the risk. Her community adored her. Shaker Heights, a place known for its progressive values and strong schools, was shaken when Aisha was gone. The school district closed for days to mourn. Vigils filled the streets. Colleagues said walking past her classroom felt like walking past a wound. The man who killed her wasn't some nameless stranger. He was one of the system's own, a Harvard-educated lawyer, former assistant prosecutor, state legislator, and judge of the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas. Lance T. Mason had spent his life inside the justice system, and that system repeatedly extended leniency to him. After his 2014 conviction, it should have been clear. This was a high-risk offender with a history of extreme violence, access to weapons, and a victim left permanently scarred. But 3 years later, in 2017, Mason was hired by the city of Cleveland as Minority Business Development Administrator. To many, it felt like official forgiveness, as though status outweighed accountability. To Aisha, it was a reminder that her safety would always depend on her own vigilance, not the institutions around her. Every safeguard she had, the protection order, the structured exchanges, the daylight hours, relied on systems that assumed her abuser would obey the rules. Then came November 17, 2018. It was supposed to be a standard Saturday morning handoff at the Chagrin Boulevard residence, a location used specifically for custody exchanges, occupied by Mason's sister Lynn. Aisha pulled into the driveway in her Audi SUV and began unbuckling the children. Mason was waiting behind the house. He lunged at her, stabbing her repeatedly in the neck and torso. Her daughters screamed. Inside, his sister called 911. On the recording, her voice is frantic. He stabbed her. He said she's dead. You can hear a child crying in the background. Police arrived within minutes. They found Aisha in the driveway, gravely injured. Blood patterns showed she tried to move toward the garage before collapsing. She had planned to attend a teacher's meeting that afternoon. Her phone still held messages coordinating the custody drop-off. As officers responded, Mason jumped into Aisha's car and tried to escape. He rammed a police cruiser, critically injuring Officer Adam Flint. Even then, he resisted arrest until subdued. The knife recovered nearby was soaked in blood, later confirmed as the murder weapon. Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Michael O'Malley said it plainly. Mason had been lying in wait. He was out to murder her that day, regardless of who was present, his sister, his children, or anyone else. Investigators said his motive stemmed from revenge and control, an attempt to reclaim power after losing his marriage, his status, and his public image. This was not spontaneous. It was planned. A violent man had been given space, time, and opportunity by the very institutions that were supposed to contain him. Every warning sign was clear. Every opportunity to intervene was missed.
Aisha needed help, and Aisha was asking for help. And the persons and authorities and judicial system that could have helped her did not.
It's a story we've been following for years since family members say Aisha Fraser was failed by the system.
The best that we can do is to learn from the failures that we have.
The Shaker Heights mother and beloved teacher murdered by her ex-husband in 2018.
The warning signs always there. Her mother sharing them with us for the first time.
My daughter had this deep fear that he was going to kill her.
Nearly 6 years after her public murder, Aisha's mother says she is still waiting for the right lessons to be learned.
Within days of the murder, a grand jury indicted Lance Mason on aggravated murder, felonious assault, grand theft, and violating a protection order. Because of his judicial ties, every judge in Cuyahoga County recused themselves. The case was transferred to Judge John Haas of Starr County. In 2019, Mason pleaded guilty to all charges, claiming he wanted to spare his daughter from testifying. Prosecutors and observers alike saw the plea as self-serving, an attempt to control the narrative one final time. On September 12, 2019, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 35 years. The court added concurrent time for the injured officer and protection order violations. The judge called the act barbaric beyond comprehension. Aisha's school closed again for mourning. Her colleagues placed candles in her classroom window. The Crowell family, the godparents Aisha had chosen years earlier, took in her daughters, just as she had planned. Public outrage followed swiftly. How could a man with a documented near-lethal assault history return to public office? How could 9 months of jail time satisfy justice for a brutal witness beating? And why did a woman who followed every legal directive still end up murdered in daylight, in front of her children? Those questions turned into action. Lawmakers in Ohio introduced House Bill 3, known as Aisha's Law. It aimed to change how the justice system recognizes danger, requiring officers to use lethality assessment tools when responding to domestic disputes, expanding definitions of domestic violence to include coercive control, and improving protective custody for survivors at high risk. As of 2025, the legacy of Aisha Fraser continues to shape conversations about domestic violence reform across the United States. What state or country are you watching from? And do your police departments provide supervised exchange locations? Drop a comment with any verified local resources. Your comment might lead someone to safety.
I hope he sits there in a prison cell for the rest of his life, every minute of every day, thinking about what he has done to destroy his family.
5 on your side, investigator Scott Knoll was in the courtroom today as Mason pleaded guilty to killing his ex-wife.
He is now live in our newsroom with the very latest.
Prosecutor Mike O'Malley called the crime barbaric. He says last November at the murder scene, he decided not to cut Lance Mason any breaks. Today, Mason walked into court and admitted what investigators have said for months. The former judge is a killer.
Aisha's story is about more than one man's violence. It's about how privilege can insulate offenders and how bureaucracy can overlook lethal patterns until it's too late. Aisha did everything right. She reported. She testified. She planned. She complied. But the system treated those steps as boxes to check, not as indicators of extreme risk. Her story demands that we rethink what protection truly means. If Aisha's story moves you, share this episode. Let her name stay tied to reform, not tragedy. And subscribe to Dark Trace Crime Cases. We bring you the stories that expose failure, accountability, and the fight for justice that outlives the courtroom. Aisha Lorraine Fraser was more than a victim. She was a mother, a teacher, a mentor, and a woman who believed that doing everything right would lead to safety. Her death forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. The system often protects privilege before people. Justice in a courtroom isn't the end of a story. It's the bare minimum. The real test is whether the next Aisha is protected before a driveway becomes a crime scene. Thank you for watching Dark Trace Crime Cases. Stay aware, stay informed, and keep demanding accountability, because safety shouldn't depend on status, and justice should never require a tragedy to be taken seriously.